Whale watching trips aren't created equal. We've been on 6 of them. They've ranged from awful to spectacular. Today I'm going to tell you about each, and in particular 2 that we found fantastic. Stay tuned for the good, the bad, and the ugly of whale watching tours. Whale watching wasn't always our favorite wild animal adventure. My wife and I met in Yellowstone National Park, where we were summer employees. One of the best ways to see wild animals within the park was to take a bus tour at sunset, run by the Park Service. These so-called twilight tours were free to employees, and we took advantage, developing a love of the observation of magnificent animals in the wild. Right now, whale watching fills this need for us. Our 6 excursions have taken us to 5 different locations in 3 countries. Let's run through them in order. Hawaii, 1999. Are you kidding? 1999? Our first whale watch might seem like ancient history to many of you, but I'm including this one because there's important lessons, and the same company that gave us our tour is still in business, so the messages are still relevant today. The target here is humpbacks, which are big, fun, and more social than most of the other whales. The tour we took was Captain Dan McSweeney's Whale Watch Learning Adventure out of Kona on the Big Island. The humpbacks that come here are migratory. They spend winters in Hawaii where they mate. Then they travel to Alaska where they gorge all summer. Back in Hawaii, they give birth, and the baby will stay with mom for about a year, moving back and forth. Then the cycle will start again. During breeding season, the males will often breach, to show off in part and to communicate where they are. They also breach for other reasons. Dan McSweeney's picture of this, shown here, is one of the things that lured us in. The prime season is mid-January to mid-March. We were here in early April. Some whales were still here, but we knew there was a danger of not seeing any. But Dan offered a money-back guarantee. 2 hours into the tour, we had seen only dolphins, and the boat suddenly began to develop engine trouble. We limped back into the nearest dock and had to be bussed back to our original departure point. The guarantee turned out to be a coupon for a free tour, again, anytime within the next year. We held it for a long time, but it would be 8 years before we returned to Hawaii, so we never did do the follow-up trip. Lessons from this trip: manage expectations and understand what a guarantee means. No animal sightings are ever truly guaranteed, but since Captain Dan is still in business, he's obviously doing things right most of the time. While ours was a bad trip, I wouldn't hesitate to try him again, but I would aim for peak season if I could. Number 2, New Zealand, September 2011. New Zealand was our first international overseas trip. We were here on a home exchange initiated by a couple who lived in the Bay of Islands in the northern portion of New Zealand. The nearest town to us was a beautiful little community called Russell. As fortune would have it, they offered a whale watching tour. A half dozen whale species can be seen in various parts of New Zealand, as identified in this tourist photo. At this time of year and in this area, the greatest likelihood would be to either see humpbacks or pilot whales. But this operator's only guarantee was that we'd see marine mammals of some sort: whales, dolphins, seals, etc. Again, we were at whale watching shoulder season. The peak whale watching time for the Bay of Islands ends in August, and we were there in early September. Still, we decided to give it a go. The boat was larger than our previous craft, and people were able to spread out. The introductory message warned that the least likelihood of seasickness would come if you sat in the center of the boat, which we did. We saw several sea mammals, mostly dolphins, and we stopped for a break at an island resort partway through the trip. On the way back, the pilot carefully negotiated our craft through a hole in the rock with our boat. Other boats gave up, given the choppy water, but we made it, and our whole boat felt the thrill of accomplishment. But no whales. In all, the trip was bumpy, but overall quite fun. Back on shore, we immediately headed for our favorite daily fix of New Zealand ice cream, best on the planet. When we told the vendor that what we had just done, his first question was, "So, did all the Asian young people get sick?" We asked him how he knew that, since this is exactly what happened. He explained that they don't understand English well enough, so they don't heed the advice given at the start of the tour to stay away from the front and back of the boat. And they all get sick, virtually every trip, every day. The lesson this time was to listen to the directions and enjoy all parts of the trip. If you see a whale, it's really a bonus. Now, if you really want to see whales, we've done further research, and it would be best to book a trip from Kaikoura in peak season. They boast a 95% success rate, and they refund 80% of the cost of the trip if you don't see a whale. Okay, number 3, Alaska, June 2022. So was the third time a charm? Oh my, yes. We were on a Princess Alaska cruise with other members of our family. We elected to take a Princess whale excursion hosted by the Allen family. The boat was the largest yet, and one we would come to appreciate because the whale observation area is a distance from shore through sometimes choppy water. But in the larger boat, no one that we observed got seasick. From the beginning, we knew that we were in a ship run by professionals. There were multiple naturalists on board, and they were fantastic. They came around the boat to answer questions, display educational material, as well as gave a fairly non-stop educational narrative. And we found whales. More than a half dozen altogether, and we would follow them as they traveled singly or in pairs. We inched in close to observe how a whale will sit with his mouth open, let the krill swim in, then close the hatch and swallow. We saw a mom and baby travel together. We saw many beautiful flukes as they dove. And the final thrill was a single breach, which our son managed to capture at just the right moment. It's shown here. Along the way, there were eagles, seals, and a host of other interesting sights. It was a fantastic trip and worth every penny. Now remember, June is prime season in Alaska. So the lesson is this is as close as it gets to guaranteed success. Right time, right place, right guides, right size ship for the location. This is one of our top 2 recommendations. Next, number 4, Bar Harbor, August 2022. So now we're buoyed by our first success. 2 months later found us at Bar Harbor, Maine, with another family member. Whale watching peak season in Bar Harbor is June through August, and we're there in August. So could the Atlantic whales match up to their Pacific counterparts? Sort of. First of all, understand Bar Harbor and nearby Acadia National Park are 2 of the most beautiful places we've ever seen. So the trip isn't wasted, even without whales. Although cruise ships do stop here, this time we weren't on a cruise. And we'd be here for several days. This gave us a chance to find and book a trip that looks good to us. Different types of whales frequent the area, including humpbacks, finbacks, minkies, and right whales. Humpbacks are here to eat before migrating to the West Indies islands in the Caribbean to mate. Now, I didn't write down which types of whales we saw, but not all were humpbacks. We saw a pair of young adult males traveling together. We saw a mom and a baby sleeping on top of the water, looking just like a pair of logs. Thus the apt name for this activity, logging. And we saw a few flukes, but no breaches. It was an absolutely gorgeous trip on a boat similar in size to our Alaska adventure. My summary. This wouldn't be my first choice as a whale watching destination. But if you're here in season, your chances of successfully seeing whales are quite high, and it's a good trip. Number 5, Alaska, May 2024. June and July are the best whale watching months in Juneau, but the season generally runs from May through September. We found ourselves here again in May with different family members than before. Would whale watching be as good in May as it was in June? Given our previous success, we decided to use the same formula. Same cruise line, same Allen family excursion, same boat, just a month earlier. In at least one way, the results were more spectacular than before. Like before, we followed several different whales. No shore feeding this time, but many nice flukes and blows and some fairly close observation. And we found a mom and a baby. But this time, the baby had apparently just learned to breach. And it's almost as if you were saying, "I can do it, Mama! Look at me! Look at me!" he might have breached a dozen times or more, often one after another. Nobody in the boat was going to miss it this time. So the lesson: you never know exactly what you're going to get. But like before, if you pick the right time, the right place and guide, something really good is very likely to happen. Believe it or not, the best is yet to come. But before I get there, let me invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Our purpose here is to help you travel as well as you can while you still can. Costs nothing to subscribe. It really does help us out. Thanks in advance. Okay, final one, number 6, Cabo San Lucas, December 2024. Cabo San Lucas, Mexico is our most recent whale watch adventure, taking place 3 weeks ago at the end of 2024. We were here on a Holland America cruise, but we had a problem. We're only going to be in port about 6 hours. And this is a tender port, meaning that we anchored in the harbor and shuttled in on tender boats, making our available time even less. Nevertheless, we found a fantastic whale watching experience with an in-season whale sighting guarantee on an intimate boat, 12 customers and a crew of 2. It promised to get us to the whales and back within 2.5 hours, and we got to capture a picture of us with the iconic Cabo hole in the rock behind us on the way, and they promised to have our guide take pictures along the trip and provide them to us at no extra charge. They delivered on all these promises, and the pictures were fantastic. We were close enough to the humpbacks to see the barnacles as they surfaced near us and dove again, perhaps 2 car lengths from us. Here are the videos that we took and pictures provided by Whale Watch Cabo of our actual tour. During the whale season, which runs December 15th through April 15th, the company has a 95% success rate finding whales. During this time, the whales are passing through the area. For moms and babies, this is what they call school time, where each mom is teaching her giant newborn. We saw multiple whales, including a mother and child pair. We were actually able to observe them a little bit underwater as they were rising to the surface and hear them blow as they came up. Check out the orca teeth marks on the tail of one of these whales. Our guide was not only an excellent photographer, but a great university-trained naturalist with years of daily experience. And with only 12 guests, we can hear everything he said, ask any questions we want. We give this tour 5 stars. You can check out the fantastic ratings online. So my summary: if you could do only one whale watch experience out of the ones we've done, this is the one that we would recommend. Are we done whale watching? No. This summer, in summer of 2025, we plan a whale watch trip while in port in Victoria. This time, the target will be pods of orcas, the apex predator of the seas. If any of you have any advice or comments on your own whale watch adventures, please leave them in the comments. Until next time, safe travels.